Hello again, and welcome to my screencast for week 4 of Physics 111. The first thing I did this week was to post several responses. I did my 8 responses to Students Today and Shift Happens. I noticed several recurring themes on the responses to this. A lot of people said there was a barrage of available information available on the internet, and we were all wondering, how usable is it? We tend to go towards the same 7 or 8 sites and use those. We also talked about how some students abuse technology to avoid doing their schoolwork, and so that's not a good use of technology. And some people voiced concerns about the fact that information you learn in school is already outdated by the time you graduate. So the best thing you can do in school is learn how to solve problems. Also, some of the things that you learn provide a foundation for things that you will learn about later. So remembering those things and learning how to problem solve are two very good, important things to learn about. The next thing that I did this week, I posted this video about the Large Hadron Collider and how protons collide in this collider. They use circular motion around the collider to get protons about 99.9% of the speed of light. I found it really interesting that instead of exceeding the speed of light or even reaching it, the particles actually get heavier. They just cannot breach that barrier. So that was really interesting. And they also use these collisions to study the Big Bang. So that was really interesting as well. The next thing I did after that, I went on the Boys in Gaming and listened to the TED Talk. And this one I could definitely use in my life as a school teacher. Teaching first grade, it's very important to engage the students. A lot of them have many other kinds of activities that they can work on, and instead of schoolwork at home, they can do all kinds of video games. So it's really important to find ways to reach the boys, and it's especially difficult without very many male teachers. So finding ways to get them excited about learning is important. Next, I worked on the spiral kinematics activities, and let's see, those are here. And interesting using the graphs. I can get those to come up. There we go. Like, for example, this graph was interesting with the increasing velocity. It actually makes a position versus time graph that arcs upward. And then your velocity versus time is a straight line. So this would be constant acceleration. So it's interesting how you can take a motion diagram and then graph it in different ways and firsthand see the relationships between position, velocity, and then acceleration. The second graph that I did on this was also very interesting. Down here, I think I did this right. This was really tricky. Where the motion, oops, went a little bit too far there. Let me come back down. The motion here is starting out fast, and it gradually slows down to a stop, and then it accelerates again. So my position graph came kind of arced upwards, leveled out, and then arced upwards again. And then the velocity, of course, decreased down to 0, and then went back up again. So that was kind of an unusual graph. Another activity that we did for the spiral kinematics that I learned about this week, go past my graphs here, scroll down, was using the equations that we read about last week in conjunction with the diagram in order to solve an actual problem. This one here, we were trying to calculate how fast a girl was going, or a child, I guess, was climbing up the wall, or climbing up a rope. And this was the information that was provided in the problem. She started out at 0 seconds and 0 position and no velocity. And by the time she finished, she was going 2 meters per second, and the position was 1.4 up, and the velocity was 1.4 meters per second. So using that information and continual substitution in these two equations here, we're able to come up with all of the numbers that were missing. Then I used the tracker, and that was here, to track the motion of this puck. It was kind of difficult. This movie kept crashing, but I found a way by plotting just the center of the puck to come up with this graph here. This was showing the x vector, so I was able to show the motion in the x direction. And then by clicking here, you can actually change that to show the y component. So then that shows the y component going in a straight line. So you take the two of those and it gives you the final velocity, and then you can use that then to calculate the final vector. Also this week I used this information here to create a video game on VPython. Let's see if I can bring that up. I want to show some of the programming first. Oh, here we go. Sorry. This was probably the hardest part, was after getting it all set up, then trying to get the ball to collide with the paddle. So I worked ahead and found in another chapter farther ahead how to do a collision of a sphere in a box, and that helped immensely, because when I tried using the position like I did for getting the wall set up, I couldn't get it, because once you have the mouse moving the paddle up and down, your position's changing, so I couldn't figure out how to get around that. So in order to get around it, I just went ahead and did a collision versus sphere. And I want to show, so I can show what that looks like. I'm not going to run it, but the biggest things here was making the wall, getting this gap for a goal, and then making this two colors all took some doing. And then what's really neat about it was using the concept of inelastic and elastic collisions. So when this ball actually hits here on the purple, it speeds up. So it made that double the speed. But here, up in the blue part, I made it an inelastic collision so that it slows down. And it also has friction, so it changes direction and slows down in both the x and y directions. So I used the coefficient, I can't remember the name of it, the CR. So if I look back in my notebook, then I can find the name of that. But anyway, oh, well, it's collision with a stationary rigid barrier was the chapter I learned that in. And then it has this CR, coefficient of restitution. If you use the coefficient of restitution, you can decide whether it's an elastic or inelastic collision. So that was very helpful in creating this game and making it more realistic. And that concludes my screencast for this week. Thank you very much.